You might have a day where you feel clear and motivated and you think, okay, I'm back. And then the next day you wake up exhausted and irritable thinking, what did I do wrong? Usually you didn't do anything wrong. Your system is still just rebalancing. Welcome back to the Sober and Happy podcast. If you stopped drinking for 30 days, what would really happen? Not what you hope would happen, not what you're afraid might happen, but what actually happens. That's what I want to talk about today. Taking an honest look at what the first month usually looks like week by week. Things like sleep getting weird, anxiety showing up out of the middle of nowhere, feeling better one day and then worse the next, and wondering, is this supposed to feel like this? Before we get into it, I do need to say this. If you've been a heavy daily drinker, detoxing from alcohol can be dangerous and in some cases life-threatening. If that's you, please talk to a doctor or medical professional before stopping. As someone who's done it both ways, I can tell you there's no benefit to doing this the hard way, and getting medical support here is the smart move. All right, with that out of the way, let's get to week one. Week one is usually the loudest week. Loud physically, loud mentally, and loud emotionally. Most people go into this week already expecting it to be uncomfortable, and for good reason. Your body notices almost immediately that something it's used to is gone, and it reacts. And if you were a heavy or daily drinker, this week can be especially challenging physically. You might notice shakiness, sweating, headaches, nausea, a racing heart, or anxiety that feels very physical in your body. That's your system adjusting to the absence of alcohol. And it's one of the reasons why it's so important to take this part seriously and get medical guidance if you need it. Now, sleep is usually one of the first things people really notice. A lot of people are surprised by how weird it gets. You might fall asleep fine and then pop awake at 2 or 3 in the morning with your mind racing so fast it feels like it woke up an hour ago and has already chugged a pot of coffee. Or you do sleep, but it's shallow, like you never really sink into it. Or you have these vivid, movie-length dreams and wake up exhausted. Now, when that happens, it's easy for fear to creep in. You start thinking, great, now I can't even sleep without drinking. What's actually happening is your nervous system is recalibrating and has to learn how to slow itself down on its own. At this stage, the goal isn't perfect sleep. It's reminding yourself that disrupted sleep is part of the adjustment, not proof that something is wrong. Energy also gets strange this week. You could feel tired and restless all at the same time. Exhausted, but unable to really settle. Your body wants rest, but your brain keeps looking for something to do. That's why people start pacing, snacking, scrolling, reorganizing the kitchen at midnight, or just getting irritated because everything suddenly feels boring. This is one of those weeks where trying to force perfect rest usually backfires. If you can sleep or truly rest, great. That always should be the priority. But when you can't, it often helps to work with that restless energy instead of fighting it. Light movement, simple tasks, or even stepping outside for a few minutes could take the edge off without needing the feeling for it to fully go away. And once you've already started feeling restless and uncomfortable in your body, cravings usually aren't far behind. For most people, the strongest physical cravings for alcohol tend to show up in the first several days to about a week. They could come in waves, they could feel urgent, and they could feel very physical in your body. That part is real, especially if you're drinking regularly. But alongside those direct alcohol cravings, a lot of people are surprised by other cravings that show up too. Cravings for sugar, for stimulation, for distraction, or just something to change how you feel at the moment. What you're often reaching for there isn't just alcohol itself, it's relief. It's that end of the day switch, that signal that says, I'm done, I could relax now, I don't have to think anymore. When alcohol has been your main way of creating that feeling, your brain keeps looking for a replacement. That doesn't mean the craving will last forever, it just means your system is used to a pattern and it's noticing that something in the pattern is missing. And early on, the goal isn't to make the craving disappear, it's to ride it out long enough for it to peak and for it to pass. Sometimes that means eating something, changing environments, calling someone, or just reminding yourself that cravings move even when they feel intense. Emotionally, this is where people often notice they're more sensitive than usual, or sometimes the opposite, kind of flat. Little things could irritate you more than they normally would, and that can be confusing when you're trying to do the right thing. What's happening is alcohol has been turning down the volume on stress and emotion, and without it, everything feels a little louder at first. Your brain just isn't used to handling that level of noise on its own yet. Now, here's a mistake most people make in week one. They interpret discomfort as failure. They go, "This is too hard. I'm not built for this." No, week one isn't a personality test. Week one is your body reacting to a change. Discomfort in week one doesn't mean sobriety isn't working. It means your system is just noticing the difference. If you could treat week one like stabilization, like you getting your footing, your job isn't to feel amazing. Your job is to get through the day, get to bedtime, and start stacking days sober. Now, week two is where a lot of people expect a big turn. They think, okay, I did the hard part. Now I should start feeling great. And sometimes there's a little lift. Sometimes you wake up and you're like, oh, wow, I don't feel horrible this morning. And that's real progress. But if you're a problem drinker, week two often feels unsettled. Not crisis mode anymore, but not stable. And this is where I want you to hear me clearly. Unsettled does not mean broken. Quick note before I go deeper. If you weren't a daily drinker, if alcohol wasn't something your body depended on, many of the physical symptoms may already be fading by now. Sleep may be improving fast. Energy may normalize quicker. And week two becomes mostly psychological for you. However, if you're a daily drinker or close to it, you may still be having physical stuff going on, just in a different form than week one. Sleep in week two is often inconsistent. You might have 2 decent nights, then a rough one out of nowhere. And the rough night makes you question the whole process. See, I knew it. I can't do this. But that up and down pattern is common. Your sleep system is relearning. Energy also tends to come in waves. You might have a good morning and then hit a wall mid-afternoon, or you might feel kind of foggy until late morning and then suddenly get a burst of energy. This is your body still regulating. A lot of people also feel anxiety more in their body in week two. A tight chest, shallow breathing, that built-in wired but tired feeling. And as the fog starts lifting in week two and you could think a little more clearly, this is also where your mind may start jumping to worst-case conclusions. You might notice lingering physical symptoms and think, what if I broke myself? Or what if this thing never goes away? At the same time, you might start seeing the damage your drinking caused and feel overwhelmed by it. Relationships, money, health, missed time, and suddenly all this feels like too much to fix, so your brain starts asking, what's the point of even trying? What helps here is slowing everything way down. Most of the time, this isn't a sign that something is wrong or permanent. It's that your awareness is coming back faster than your confidence, and your brain is simply freaking out a little. You're not meant to solve your whole life in week two. Just notice what's there without deciding what it all means yet. Here's the bigger shift in week two. Your brain starts getting clearer, and with that clarity comes awareness. You start noticing your triggers in real time. You're not just thinking, I want to drink. You're thinking, I want to drink because I'm stressed, or because I'm lonely, or because I'm bored, or because I don't know what to do with myself after work. That's important information. And honestly, week two is where a lot of people get slammed by boredom. Not because life is boring, but because alcohol was your punctuation mark. It's how you started the night. It's how you ended the day. It's how you transitioned from one emotional state to another. And when you remove it, you're left with this open space. And open space can feel uncomfortable when you're not used to it. So week two could feel like, okay, now what? And that's where people either start building replacement routines or they start negotiating. Maybe I could drink on the weekends. Maybe I could do just beer. Maybe I overreacted. Week two is where the bargaining phase gets really loud. And I want you to remember this. The fact that you're bargaining doesn't mean you're failing. It means your brain is trying to get back to what it knows. Your brain loves familiar, even when familiar is harmful. Now, week three is one of the most misunderstood weeks. It's the week where a lot of people relapse, not because they had one massive trigger, but because they got confused by the inconsistency. Physically, week three could be choppy. You might feel good for a few days and then suddenly you hit this wall. Fatigue, brain fog, low mood, irritability, and your brain immediately goes, see, this isn't working. In week 3, the symptoms usually stop being constant and start coming and going. You might feel fine one day and then rough the next. That unpredictability is what messes with people, not because things are worse, but because it's hard to trust how the next day will feel. You might have a day where you feel clear and motivated and you think, okay, I'm back. And then the next day you wake up exhausted and irritable thinking, what did I do wrong? Usually you didn't do anything wrong. Your system is still just rebalancing. Stress sensitivity is a big one in week 3. Small things feel bigger. A minor argument feels like a major event. A tough workday feels like the end of the world. Not because you're weak, but because your body is used to alcohol as a regulator. Without it, your stress response is learning how to come down naturally. And how sleep could do that annoying thing where it improves and then it regresses. So you get 3 nights of decent sleep and then a weird night and you panic. Again, this is common. And emotionally, week 3 is where the bigger questions start showing up. You're not just trying to get through the day anymore, so your brain has a lot more time to ask things you didn't have time to think about in week 1. You start thinking things like, what do I do on Friday night? Who am I without this? Are my friends still my friends? Am I going to be boring? What if I can't ever relax again? And those questions could feel heavy because alcohol used to give you an instant answer. And this is also a point where bargaining starts sneaking in again. When you're not feeling great, it's easy to start thinking, what's the point? Or if I'm going to feel uncomfortable anyways, I might as well be drinking. What's really going on here is week 3 is a middle stretch. You're no longer in crisis mode, but your body and brain are still catching up. So if I could give you one point to remember for week 3, it would be this. Feeling up and down doesn't mean you're going backwards. It means you're still transitioning. By week 4, most people don't feel fireworks. And I actually like that because fireworks can be misleading. What you want is steady. Sleep is usually more consistent. Not perfect, but you're not surprised every night. You're not living in that 2:30 a.m. panic window as often. Energy is more predictable, and your mornings are less recovering and more starting. Your baseline anxiety tends to be quieter, and that constant background noise starts turning down some more. You also get your time back, and this is a big one. People don't realize how much time drinking takes. Not just the act of drinking, but the planning, the recovery, the sluggishness, the next day mental fog. By week 4, you start noticing pockets of time, and you're like, what do I do with this? But that's a good problem. By week 4, cravings may still be loud, but it usually isn't your body that's asking for alcohol anymore, it's your routines. Cravings more often are now showing up around rituals, after work, social events, certain restaurants, certain people, certain feelings, and now you can start to see them coming, which makes them easier to handle. And emotionally, week 4 is where self-trust starts to form. Not in a dramatic way, but it's quieter than that. It's more like, I said I'm going to do this, and I'm really doing this. You're proving to yourself that you could handle uncomfortable moments without having to escape from them. And that's a huge win, even if you don't feel happy yet. Now let me zoom out for a second, because this part really matters. 30 days is a big deal. If you've made it this far, that's real work, real effort, and real change. You don't stumble into 30 days, you earn it. And at the same time, it's not the end of the story. It's a point where you finally have enough clarity to decide what comes next. It tells you what your body does without alcohol. It tells you what your stress looks like without alcohol. It tells you what emotions show up when you're not numbing them. And it tells you what parts of your life are being held back by drinking. So the most useful question at the end of 30 days is not, am I happier? Because happiness is complicated and it takes time. The most useful questions are, what got easier? What got harder? What surprised me? What don't I want to go back to? And what do I need so I don't feel like I need alcohol at all? Because if alcohol was your main coping tool, removing it reveals the real work. You need more tools. So here's your challenge this week. If you're in the first 30 days right now, I want you to stop taking daily emotional snapshots like they're a verdict. Don't wake up and go, do I feel amazing yet? Instead, track patterns. Notice what times a day hit you the hardest. Notice what feelings show up right before a craving. Notice what helps you write it out. And if you're past 30 days, take a moment to think back and ask yourself, what was the most misunderstood part for you? Where did you assume something was wrong when it was actually a normal part of the process? But knowing what to expect can be incredibly helpful, so I hope this helped you out. But I also encourage you to remain curious. When something pops up that we didn't cover in this episode, use it not as a sign that something is wrong, but as a sign that there's something to be learned. That is what the first 30 days and beyond is really about. Learning, adjusting, and learning some more. And I hope today we did just that. If this episode helped you out, make sure that you're subscribed or following the show so that you don't miss future episodes. I put out content like this every week. Honest conversations about what sobriety actually looks like, not just the highlight reels. Thank you for tuning in, and until next time, keep living sober and happy.